New features on Instagram, just checking it out. Right. Let me see. Anyone can see me? Yeah, fantastic. Привет, Сереж. Прогуливаешь? Прогуливаешь. Неважно, короче. Там отпиши мне, пожалуйста, да, когда сможешь. Right, so, hi guys, it's going to be in English, sorry. Если интересно по-русски, что-нибудь в таком роде, то напишите мне в директ, я обязательно проведу. Hi, I'm, for people who don't know me, I'm Anna Jozdova, and I'm a fermentation specialist, and I share my passion for magic of fermentation here. So anyways, I just finished, probably you've seen in the stories, I just finished making cultured butter, which I did show some time ago in stories. And now I wanted to show you how I'm going to, this is my butter. I hope you can see it well. And now I'm going to show how we're going to make, basically, going to salt it, and I'm going to make green butter. And then after, we're going to make some water kefir and maybe something else. Let's see. Right. Right. So I have my salt, which I didn't prepare. Okay, that's my Himalayan salt. Pink salt, or any fine salt that is real salt, which means full of minerals. Yeah, not the table salt, because table salt just have two minerals in there, and very often anti-caking agents as well, so that's something that we don't want, and very often aluminium as well, and that's no. Body doesn't need it, and it's going to wreck. It's going to bring some unwanted health. Basically, it's a health hazard. Right, so I'm gonna put probably 1/8 of a teaspoon, and basically I'm going to knead of salt, and I'm going to sort of like knead it. This is after I washed the butter. Yeah, very important process in butter making is washing it at the very end. And then you either leave it as is, or you can add salt, as I'm here. And the amount of salt, when you're making something yourself, obviously you can control how much of anything and what quality of that anything you add. Yeah. So I also encourage you to, whenever you are making something like this, start tasting it on every stage. So that tasting on every stage will make it much easier for you to later understand your ferment or your food preparation, whatever that is. But in fermentation from day 0, when it's just ingredients put together, you can start tasting it, and every day you will see how the taste develops, and that will help you to understand your ferment better, to understand the stages of fermentation better as well. So anyways, I'm going to yum. Nice. Okay, that's enough salt. And again, how much salt you put, that's up to you. So I'm going to divide this now. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I'm going to divide this roughly by half-ish. Not really half. Anyways, this is not exact science. I'm going to put some of it as plain cultured butter. And by the way, for people who are in London, I'm preparing all this for my workshop this Sunday in North London, and I'm going to make a post after this live, and I'm going to post their link where to get the tickets. Right, so this leftover tiny bit of butter we are going to turn into green butter. And green butter is basically just herbed butter. Yeah, so you're just going to use some herbs. And obviously, if you're making quite a lot of butter, yeah, if you have quite a big quantity, it's much easier to blend everything. But when you have this little amount, and that little amount of spices, I mean herbs, it's quite difficult and challenging to do that. So, but even if you're not, you can't chop everything very, very finely, which I will attempt to do now. It's still a good idea to add those, because even chopped more or less roughly, it's really tasty in the butter. Okay? Especially if you can make some sourdough, I started salivating, some sourdough buns yourself, and that together is a amazing combination. Right, I'm not gonna fiddle with garlic, I'm just going to, and I like a lot of garlic, so I'm gonna use lots in there. So I'm gonna put my garlic, and I'm going to chop. And this is another way for you to introduce those greens, those herbs into your diet. Yeah, it makes it really, really tasty. So I'm not going to waste the leftovers of the garlic. And my table is really moving, but I'll try to do this. Anyways, it doesn't have to be very, very fine. It's still going to be tasty. So I'm going to use just leaves of this one, because this variety has very tough stem. Amazing smell. But actually, combination of herbs work really well if you add basil. Basil with any combination, almost any combination works amazingly. Basil adds very unique flavor to the butter. Usually I use basil. I don't have basil today, by the way. Basil, coriander, spring onion, something like that. And the basil adds this, I don't know, amazing flavor to the whole butter. So, and obviously the finer you can, you're able to blend or chop the herbs, the greener the color will be, the smoother the green color will be. I remember some time ago bringing this butter, and I did make much more than that, and the butter, and I managed to use the blender for all my herbs, and somebody said, "Ooh, is this pistachio butter?" I'm like, no, because you know pistachio makes it green, but obviously it didn't taste like pistachio at all. Anyways, so that's so what I'm trying to say is that the color was really, really smooth and green with no bits, almost no bits. Anyways, I'm going to try and make it really, really small. Good idea to to use fresh herbs, as fresh as possible, not the ones that were sitting around for a while and look quite sad. Right, so we've got quite a lot. And I'm going to add a bit of spring onion, and also try to do it as small as possible, especially with a moving table. It's not that easy. Yeah, but as I said, blending is much easier, of course. I'm also going to add a little bit of lemon juice. Just gonna squeeze a bit of lemon for the little tang. That works really, really well. Right. Сестра, привет. Как там тебе бежится? Okay. And I'm a little bit flushed because I just baked the bread, and I'm standing next to the oven, so it's really hot. And although I did open the window, I have French windows on the back of you, the side that where you are, guys. I'm going to put this away, throw this, set this aside, and I'm going to squeeze just a little bit of lemon. And mix it around, and like this. As you can see, It's coming together beautifully. Of course, this type of butter, if you make like quite big quantity and you don't eat it probably within 2, the freshest the best actually. I usually bring something like this to parties, so it's get eaten straight away. But it will happily stay fresh and tasty probably a couple of weeks in the fridge. I've never kept it outside the fridge. So, right. So we have this more or less. Oh, let me use this. Okay, it's more or less even. I don't know if you can see this, the window. Yeah, this is how it looks. And I can tell you, it's really tasty. And mind you, you can control the amount of ingredients you put in there. By the way, it doesn't have to be green butter. You can use some dried herbs in your butter, or spices probably rather, because herbs might not be that tasty in the butter. I don't know, dried particles, but I'm trying to fit that all in. Go in, go in. There. Excuse me. This noise. I'm trying to get every bit and piece. Every little piece of it. Okay. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to label those. I'm going to label those little jars later. And this is what we have. Oh, like this. Yeah? Right, so we're gonna set this aside. And to clean here a little bit. And I'm probably going to show you a bit of my, of whatever's fermenting. This is my yellow beetroot in kombucha, in very mature kombucha. I'm going to show you that again. And, ooh, hear that? See the bubbles. The bubbles! Look at the bubbles. Kombucha. I'm going to leave it for longer with some spices as well. This is another creation of mine for dairy workshop, fermented dairy workshop I have this Sunday. This is Kefir bowls. Kefir basically is Kefir labne, milk Kefir labne. Which I rolled into those bowls and preserving in some spices, pieces of Moroccan fermented lemon and olive oil. And by the way, those bowls keep for quite a long time at room temperature. I would say a month easily, maybe even longer. It just goes quite quickly, so I never experimented how long I can have it. Right, this is because the following weekend I have fermented condiments workshop. So this is some Dijon style mustard that I made. Didn't have enough black mustard seeds, so it's quite light. But I just made it yesterday, so today it's quite bitter. But tomorrow the bitterness will go, and I will adjust. I will go back to this, and I'm going to adjust the flavors. Right, what else? Oh, I also have my ingredients, which are ready for Sriracha making. That's brined chili peppers, And this is honey fermented garlic. So we might do that later. Let's see. Anyways, salt we don't need. Drink. Okay, so water kefir, here we come. Водный кефирчик, водный кефирчик. Butter aside. Right, so for water kefir, what we're going to need, where's my water? We need water. By the way, water kefir can, I think I've got a, okay, let me move this a bit. And I'm going to reach for some tools that I'm going to need. I think I need to wash some of them. Yes, excuse me. I'm going to wash some tools. I thought I prepared for this. Okay, so, oops. Water kefir is a type of culture that actually can ferment quite a few things, not just water and sugar, or sweetener, I should say. So first, this is already fermented kefir, and as you can see, I reuse my jars quite a lot. I'm going to use this IKEA bottle, and basically to make it, because this is the first ferment, so we're just going to strain the drink, and that's the kefir ready. And here I've got, I'm gonna rinse this, and here I've got, no, I'm probably going to have to use something like this. That's water kefir. And this is how it looks. Hopefully you can see it. It's quite translucent. Quite sturdy as well. Can get quite large. And we're just going to... And this is going to be second ferment. So at this stage you can either introduce some flavors, put some maybe some juice in, maybe some pieces of fruit, maybe even veg, maybe some herbs, spices, whatever you think is gonna work. Close it and leave it to ferment. It can be, I'm probably gonna use some time, it's fresh time, and ferment for a bit, probably 1 or 2 days, depending on the temperature. So this, I'm going to rinse, okay, I'm gonna move this, gonna rinse my jar. I don't sterilize my jars between the use, well, depends on what it is, but for water kefir there's no need to do that. I just rinse it and it's ready to be used again. Right, so normally I use cane sugar, organic cane sugar, which works quite well in terms of providing enough nutrients for the drink. So I'm just going to use that. And my balance is per 1 liter jar. I use 3 tablespoons, level tablespoons of sugar. 3 level, well, cane sugar, yeah, because different sugars might be different amounts. Because you can use various sweeteners. And 3 tablespoons level, can you see that? Yeah. Of a little bit of water. Я тебе скажу, когда я закончу. A little bit of water. Что, зайчка, ты хочешь? Stir it about. There is no need to dissolve the sugar completely because I find that water kefir grains, they take care of that themselves, basically. Что, зайка, да не нужно ничего. Right, 3 tablespoons of grains. You're gonna have some extras. I have a bit more than tablespoon extra. I am going to put that into my backup storage. Very important step. Before you put any flavors in here, use 3 tablespoons of previously made kefir. 1, 2, 3. If you forgot this, if you already flavored your kefir, especially with juice, you can squeeze a bit of lemon. Yeah, this is needed for lowering the pH. That's quite an important step. To dissolve it a little bit more, and basically fill up with water. This is filtered water that I've got here. I have a gravity filter, and fill it up almost to the brim, because this is not sauerkraut, so there's not going to be much surface activity, so nothing is going to go up or down in terms of liquid itself. So just give it another gentle stir. Close the lid and leave it room temperature to ferment. Takes 48 hours. So today's what? Wednesday, Friday, about this time. There will be bubbles on the surface, and a few of the grains. Yeah, they're called grains in English for some reason, and that has nothing to do with cereal. A few of the grains might float up. Yeah. And there will be effervescent smell as well, and the taste will be very different from just sweet water. And I encourage you at this stage, if you're making like this, if you're making your own, to taste how this first initial day 0 tastes. Yeah, so you understand how the taste develops and how it changes as well. Right. So I'm going to put this aside. It's going away. And shall we make sriracha? Let's make sriracha. Put this away. Drink some more. Okay. Sriracha really is very simple. You just combine already fermented ingredients. To ferment those ingredients, it takes a month, but especially honey, garlic and honey has medicinal properties, so that's an amazing healing tonic as well for when you have some respiratory disease, or if you have flu like symptoms, cold. That's an amazing tonic. Amazing remedy, and it completely, the fermentation like this completely transforms the taste and the flavor of garlic and of the honey as well. And it is liquid like this simply because honey released the juice and it became liquid. So there's no water or any other liquid in there. So it's basically just honey, raw honey. And can I open this? Woo! This is strong. By the way, people who dislike heat and don't like chili stuff, you can do the same with sweet peppers and just make sriracha that is not hot. Sriracha, by the way, is a Vietnamese sauce, a Vietnamese condiment that is used in quite a lot of their cuisine. And I especially love it with, well, actually I like it with most of like with all food, but especially in pho soup, it's amazing. Right, so what we need is probably need a blender. So basically we're going to blend those things together, but we're not going to use all the liquid here. One reason is because you don't need, I mean, of course you can add a little bit more or less liquid depending on how liquidy you like your hot chili sauce. I like mine quite thick consistency, so I prefer not to do that. Right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to strain most of the liquid. Not most of the liquid, all of the liquid. I'm going to strain all of the liquid. And mind you, all the utensils you're going to use are going to be chili, spicy hot. And also depending on what sort of chili pepper you use, it might be really hot. So as you can see here, we have a little sediment. That's normal, that's okay, that's just a part of fermentation. So that, nothing to worry about. I'm going to take my old and trusted cup. And by the way, I do use tops and all. I don't bother. And the as you can see, I was fermenting peppers whole. I didn't bother using cleaning the seeds or anything like that. Okay, I'll go in a minute. Hopefully. Just don't want to touch it with my hands. It might be too hot. I like chili stuff, but sometimes it's a bit too much. Right, so this we're going to wash later. And usually I reuse this sort of bottle or jar for the next batch of those peppers, because to wash off the smell is almost impossible. Whoops. Okay, it's spitting at me. I'm going to set this aside just in case I will need some of it. With garlic now, I also don't use all of the liquid honey, yeah. And what I'm going to do, and remember, this has been sitting in the brine, which is water and salt, so there's already salt, plus acidity, yeah, because usually Sriracha among its ingredients has obviously salt and vinegar. So this is already vinegar and salt in there. I'm going to fish out some of the garlics and put in there. I'm going to leave probably a few. And as you can see, garlics, they turn into brown. The color turns brown, and that's a normal procedure as well. Okay, I'm gonna leave this aside for now, and I'm going to blend. That's my bread. That's, by the way, my bread. Hello. Cooling down. Is it cool now? No, not yet. Sad. Okay. And we just blend. Be careful so it doesn't spit into your eye. Might not be pleasant. Whoops. Whoops. Okay. I did not think that through. Okay, I need to be a bit more careful. Fantastic. Mind you, if all the peppers are green, even chili peppers, you will have green sriracha. Don't be disheartened, it just happens, so that's nothing like that. It's going to just be different in terms of color and nutritionally, obviously. The smell is really powerful. That's what we've got. Похоже на аджику, да? Ну, только не совсем. Окей. Да, я поняла. Just to make sure that everything is blended inside. And now is the moment of truth. I'm going to try and see what else is needed. So quite often I add a little bit because I like when the chili sauce is both chili and a little bit of sweetness in there as well. So I'm just going to do that like this and basically pour some of the honey inside. Okay. Probably a bit of garlics as well. Just feel like I want a bit more garlics in there. Because as I said before, I really like garlic. And just gonna usually leave a few in the jar and it can stay at room temperature for months and months. And in case somebody in the house has a cold or flu, that's an amazing remedy that's always there. Oops. The flavor is very intense. By the way, very good way of clearing your sinuses. Okay, probably the moment of truth again. I really like when it's sweet, yeah. I'm gonna probably add a little bit of more sweetness of this fermented honey, but not too much. Try not to add too much of something at the same time. So I'm going to clean this somehow. And before I clean, I need to wash things. Do I? Yes. Okay. I'm going to leave you with Sriracha for a bit. And by the way, this this juice or brine from the fermented peppers, I'm going to transfer into a bottle and leave it in the back of my fridge. And whenever I need starter or a little bit of culture to add to another ferment, or if I'm needing something to add some spiciness into my cooking, I use it. Yes, I don't throw it away. You can, I'm sure, use that to experiment with some other ferment as well. Why not? Ferment something in it. It's already full of good bacteria. So that might be useful. Right, so I'm going to clean this. I'm done blending. And make sure to wash this quite well, because that's going to be chili. Okay, we added a little bit of honey, and I'm going to mix that up. And I haven't prepared small jars, but I usually use jars like this size, about 200 milliliter, I think this one is. Yeah, 200 gram. Those small jars, and I have, well, as you can see, there are probably 3 jars like that. And I keep it in the fridge. And this is the moment where you can start enjoying it. You don't need to wait for anything like that, for anything, because it's been, because this is made using already fermented ingredients. Yeah, I hope this was useful. If you are interested in something else, or want me to show you some other recipes, how I make them, do direct message me. And ребята по-русски, смотрите, если вам интересно что-то такое, то я могу провести по-русски, да? Thank you everyone a lot for watching me, and for those who will be watching me in recording, thank you very much. If you have any questions, send them over. Alright, have a good evening or have a good day. Bye.